Hello everyone and welcome. In honor of me officially reaching 1,000 subscribers, I am bestowing a name onto all of you lovely people, and that is my Sohorts. So you are all now my Sohorts in crime and creating. As promised during my cozy video last month, which was all about brocaded tablet weaving, I am here to show you how to do or how to make cards so that you can start tablet weaving if you don't already have some. Yeah, it's not really a sequel, it's more of a prequel video, so I guess we're gonna go with Star Wars numbering for this one. Tablet weaving as a technique dates back almost 3,000 years now. Some of the earliest examples come from Iron Age Europe. Tablets have been found in areas along with other warp-weighted weaving tools, so that's how how archaeologists have figured out what they are. And they would have been made out of materials such as bone, horn, wood, bark, even metal. There are a couple metal, stone, leather examples. Most modern replica cards are made out of some type of cardboard or cardstock, although you can find wooden ones as well, which are just made with a very fine plywood. But the great thing about, using things like cardstock or cardboard means that they are super easy to make out of things you might just have at hand already and don't need extra output necessarily. So one of the things a lot of people use to start with is either playing cards, you can see my Joker over here, or cereal boxes or other food boxes. So many things come in boxes, These were my little treat for myself during Cozy, and now I can take this box and make some cards if I want. Some other things that are usable is this actually came, where did it go? This started out life as a folder. It is September 1st now, so it is back to school season, and things like, you can see where I cut a bit of the folder off to make a, so back to school season means stuff like folders like these can be really easily and cheaply obtained. I got a pack of 3 from the dollar store. Also poster board and other things like that. Actually this set of cards came from the dollar store as well. And then there are things like this, which this started out life as one of my business/networking cards, and it was misprinted. You can see I've got a white line down the edge over there, and I didn't want to hand these out, so instead I just took a whole bunch of them and cut them down into squares to make cards out of for weaving. And the last thing, which is something else I prefer to use that is not necessarily as, I don't want to say as easily obtainable, as cheaply obtainable. This is a 6mm stencil plastic. I buy sheets of, let's see, I believe this is 12 inches by 18 inches about. So it is, as you can see, a flexible plastic, and it is very, very lightweight and thin, which is why I like using it for cards, because most of my weaving I am using very, very lightweight and fine thread. So I don't want super clunky cards in my super fine thread. It makes it unnecessarily bulky, I find. So, ooh, excuse me. Now that I have shown you some options, let's actually talk about how to make these. So let me give myself some space. As I said, these can be made with the most basic of tools. Really, the most you need is a pair of scissors, maybe a Sharpie or a pencil or some other marking device, and a hole punch. That's how I started out, and that's all you need to really make these. If you want to do, I don't want to say if you want to get more technical, but if you have other things that you are more comfortable with using, you could use things like either a rotary cutter or a straight edge for cutting your cards rather than scissors. Because I do tend to make a lot out of my sheeting, I have this that I use for cutting, and this is just a little tiny paper slicer, and it's got in the grid. The squares themselves are in metric, but there is imperial inches over here as well. If you are using either a rotary blade or an X-Acto knife or some other type of blade, you do want a heavy-duty ruler that you can cut against as well. And then the only other thing that I use, again, just to make things easier for myself, is I have a corner punch. And I use this to round off my corners, but it is completely possible to do that by hand. When I made these cards out of my vanilla almond wheat flakes, when I cut these, I did these by hand. So they're not perfectly even, but it is completely possible to do those with scissors. And for something that is heavier like this, you can, if you want, you can take like a nail file or something and smooth it down a little bit. But I have never had a problem with these with my hand-cut curved corners. You do want to take off at least a little bit at your corner just so your pack turns smoothly. But again, you don't need fancy equipment to do that. I just have this because I tend to make a lot of cards. So, what is the technique? It is also super, super easy. So, as I said, a lot of people start out making their own cards with playing cards because they're already, close to the shape you want. If you want, you don't even need to cut these down. I have seen plenty of people working with the cards as is without cutting them square. That's not my personal preference, but it is a completely valid way to do this. So this, as you can see, I have just punched my holes in each corner and left this rectangular. If you do want to cut it down to square, like I have for these, either cutting out both edges, if you are like me and don't like an unbalanced look for your card, or just cutting off one side to get it to square. It doesn't really matter where and how you cut it. So really all I do is, I don't even use a ruler to measure these, I just use the cards themselves. I align two corners at right angles. Take my Sharpie and just draw myself a nice lovely cutting line. Then I'm going to cut that off. Because I do want to make sure all of my corners are rounded, I am going to clip these. Now all I've got, I've got my nice rounded corners, and then I'm just gonna punch some holes in here. I personally don't tend to label my cards because most of what I'm doing is the brocade weaving, and therefore I don't need, every card turns together, I don't need to worry about patterning or how I thread my cards, so I don't always label it, but it is, really easy to do that. You can either label inside or above, it doesn't really matter. Make sure you label them correctly though. C and D. And there is a finished usable card. And of course you can also label them on both sides if you want. Just make sure when you do that you rotate the other way so that the letters match from side to side. That way your C, you don't want to accidentally swap your B and D on the back of the card. So this is for what it was already partially cut down. If you're working from, say, the folder or a box or anything, the easiest way to do is just cut a whole bunch of strips first, and then from there just cut them down into squares. So all I want to do is cut my squares out. And once again, it's the exact same process. I'm just going to use my punch to round my corners. Put my holes in. As you can see, I am just eyeballing my hole. If I wanted to, I could, you know, actually measure them and mark them, but I don't worry that much about it. And then once again, I can just label. My Sharpie is getting a little old, so it's not quite as fine a point, but I mean, this is pretty much it. It's really easy to do. It just gets kind of repetitive and tedious, I won't lie. Basically, all you need to make cards is just some type of material that when you put some pressure on it, it does not collapse. As you can see, these, even for being such a fine, I wouldn't even call these a cardstock. They're lighter than a cardstock, but I can push on it and it bounces back into flat without creasing or crumpling, and that's pretty much all you need for a card. You just want it to not be crinkly when you compress it. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, this is super quick and easy to make one. To make, you know, 30 or 40, it takes a little longer, but this is the type of thing where you can get a good rhythm going and pump out a whole bunch at a time. And if you find you really like doing this, and maybe you want to be a little extra, because, you know I do sometimes. I had these printed. These are 2-inch square business cards. Here's how it started out life. And I used my SCA badge as a center image for it to make both custom cards, weaving cards for myself, and I can use these as networking cards at SCA events. So all I've done, so it just means I get to spend a whole bunch of time sitting around clipping my corners and punching holes. But I get my own very, very special custom weaving cards out of them. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you can see, this is something that is super easy to make. If you want to see more stuff on weaving and other fiber arts, more sewing info, I'm going to be doing some more medieval. I'm actually going to be doing some medieval sewing coming up next month in October, because I've got a project that I want to finish for an event at the beginning of the month. So there's going to be a video about that coming out soon. Like this video, subscribe to see more, all that fun stuff. If you want to give me a little extra something, I've got my Ko-fi link down below. Like always, I want to thank you guys so much for being here, and yeah, if you make some cards, send me some photos over on Instagram. I'd love to see them. Thank you again for watching, and bye!